doctor. You are knowledgeable of the science of medicine, but there is also the art, the skill of execution of your knowledge. The greater your creativity in exercising that knowledge, then you become a skilled artist at your craft. So you're not only involved in the science of medicine, you are involved in the art of healing. Now, this world, however, is a world that has been more physical than spiritual, and it has not yet learned how to link the spiritual with the physical. So as you become a scientist and skilled at healing the physical, what is the standard by which you measure the health of the person spiritually, morally, and mentally? Now, you know the criterion for the physical body, but what is the criterion for the spiritual, the mental? That is not taught. But the
Welcome. Welcome to another broadcast of the How to Save Lives. 1 second, please. Earplugs. We have a very exciting program for you this evening, and I hope you are ready for the information. The title of today's program is, what are the chemicals allowed in the U.S. food supply supposedly safe to consume? Most of you are going to be extremely shocked and just floored with the chemicals. If not, really all of you are going to be shocked and floored regarding the chemicals that are allowed into the food supply. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to get started with 1 second. Let me take this banner off 1 minute. Producing my own show again today. Let's see, I'm going to take that banner off 1 second. Okay. Thanks for your patience. Oh, here it is. Okay. All right, here we are. Okay, let's start with our first video. Are you ready? Hold on tight.
Lining the shelves of American supermarkets are food products with chemicals linked to health concerns. There are at least 950 substances in our food that are not permitted in Europe, according to Eric Millstone, who has been studying food safety policy since the 1970s. Why is this? To a great extent, the FDA allows food companies to determine.
I hope everyone can hear this. If there's an issue with the audio, please put that in the chat that you can't hear it, because I can hear it just well, but I want to make sure that you hear it also. I'll start it back.
For themselves whether their ingredients and additives are safe. Companies don't have to tell the FDA about those decisions, and they don't have to list all ingredients on their product labels. Instead, companies can use broad terms such as artificial flavors. Though pharmaceutical companies are required to share research on humans with the FDA, the agency is largely blind to what food makers know about their products.
The food industry does massive amounts of research that we have no access to.
As a result, the FDA's oversight of food additives is much weaker than its oversight of prescription drugs. A gap in the FDA's oversight of foods goes back generations. In 1958, Congress mandated that before additives could be used in foods, manufacturers had to prove they were safe and get FDA approval. However, Congress carved out an exception for substances generally recognized as safe, which became known simply as GRAS. As conceived, GRAS promised regulatory relief for standard ingredients like salt, sugar, vinegar, and baking powder. Over time, the loophole swallowed the law. At his confirmation hearing to head the FDA, Marty Makary expressed concern about foods
with a lot of molecules that do not appear in nature.
A panel of scientists connected to an industry group called the Flavor and Extract Manufacturers Association has deemed about 3,000 flavoring ingredients as GRAS. The GRAS loophole has allowed potentially harmful ingredients to slide through the cracks. One company said in 2023 it had received self-GRAS status for an extract of this hallucinogenic mushroom, Amanita muscaria. In a memo last fall, an FDA toxicologist said extracts of the mushroom have potential for serious harm. A KFF poll found that 58% of respondents want the Trump administration to prioritize setting stricter limits on chemicals in the U.S. food supply. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. wants to close or tighten the GRAS loophole. He has railed against the risks of food additives for years and has said he wants to end
mass poisoning of American children.
Whether changes come from the FDA or the food companies, it's clear that Americans are becoming more concerned about what they're buying.
Okay, that's one video. I have another surprising one for you. So hold on, here we go.
Than 10,000 chemical additives in American foods. Yellow 5, yellow 6, red 40, blue 2, titanium dioxide, more titanium dioxide. All of these chemicals are banned in other countries. Both consumer groups and political leaders have expressed concerns about this.
We have a major crisis. We are losing lives.
And it's the newest Health and Human Services Secretary who can make the biggest changes in policy.
Our changing food supply, the switch to highly chemical intensive processed foods.
But if you're wondering how these ingredients made it into our food in the first place, it comes down to one thing: an FDA loophole. The FDA was created in 1906 to protect public health and to ensure the safety of foods and other consumer products.
These laws stipulate that the label must tell the truth about the product.
However, over the years, they faced criticism for poor resourcing, slow recalls, and insufficient pressure on the food industry. Today, 73% of the U.S. food supply is considered ultra-processed. Additives are commonly found in processed foods, some of which are linked to reproductive and behavioral problems, cancer, and obesity, all major issues here in the South. The European Union has about 96% less additives in their food. There have been small steps forward, like the recent ban of red dye number 3, which was linked to cancer in animals. But red 3 was banned in most European products over 30 years ago. One of the main reasons why these mystery chemicals keep showing up in our food is the FDA's GRAS policy, which stands for Generally Recognized as Safe. This was created in 1958 so that companies could waive FDA review for time-tested products like vinegar, baking soda, or spices. However, in 1997, the FDA loosened the protocol to save resources, and now companies can self-declare the safety of newer, less tested chemicals without agency oversight. So new substances have been added to our food that have never been independently tested for safety, and almost half of additives now fall under the GRAS category. The agency says that making changes is complicated.
We have an industry that if you tried to change it overnight, there are farmers all over the United States who would not be able to grow the crops they're currently growing. So there needs to be a plan, and it needs to be implemented in a mature, thoughtful way. well-being.
But the FDA has a reputation of being slow. For example, it took 8 years for calorie counts to be posted on chain restaurant menus. And while the FDA recently created a chemical safety office, Jim Jones, the head of the FDA Food Division, just stepped down due to department cuts and disagreements with the Trump administration. Jones led the agency in its ban of red dye number 3, and he's known for his chemical safety expertise. An FDA official did tell us that they'll work with the new Health and Human Services leadership to evaluate chemicals in the food supply. However, no specific plans were provided. There's still uncertainty about the agency's future, but in the meantime, it might be good to pay closer attention to the labels on your food.
Okay. So, as you just heard, there is a question about the agency's future. There's a question about the Food and Drug Administration's future. These are supposed to be the watchdogs, per se, over the food supply. Excuse me. But there is a question about the future of the agency. Wow. We have been taught in the Nation of Islam to grow our own food, to make our own food, to make healthy food for our families. We have been taught for 90 years to 92 years to make our kitchens our medicine cabinets. Let food be our medicine. Now we see 92 years later that unless and until we actually do this and make this an absolute standard in our families and our communities, we unfortunately are literally taking in toxins that are killing us. Let me share some information from one of the sites, drmercola.com. I do read his site. I like the research that he actually does. I like the information that he posts. So I'd like to share a little bit more detail about food chemicals. I hope you can see this okay. It may be small. I'm going to see if I can make it larger. Okay, so what are the chemicals allowed in the U.S. food supply, supposedly safe to consume? Now, we heard and saw in those 2 YouTube videos what is being allowed in our food supply and what is bypassing the surveillance, the watchful eye, supposedly, of those who are responsible for keeping our food supply safe. There could be a carcinogen, which is a cancer-causing agent or substance. There could be a carcinogen hiding in your bread right now. We just heard them talk about bromate. Potassium bromate is used to help dough rise higher in breads, buns, bagels, and pretzels. And it was labeled a genotoxin, which is toxic to your genes, a genotoxic carcinogen by the World Health Organization, and banned in the UK, Canada, and India as far back as the 1990s. In the US, it's still legal and found in over 200 products on grocery shelves today. 200 products, and it's still being allowed, although it has been labeled and found to be a carcinogen, a cancer-causing substance to your genes. I, 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 I don't know what to say. It's shocking, but it's not shocking. We know that there is a study that has been published where they want to cull the population. And so this is part of that culling. Titanium dioxide is used to whiten candy and processed foods, and it is shown to damage DNA. It is banned in Europe. It was banned in Europe in 2021 as no longer safe, but it's still found on American grocery shelves. BHA and BHT are synthetic preservatives approved decades ago, which have now been flagged in studies for cancer risk. Outdated FDA regulations keep them in widespread use despite growing evidence of harm. Toxic chemicals are ruining the biology, the balance of our biology, and those biological processes that are conducted in our bodies every day. From a biological standpoint, these additives are engineered to enhance flavor, color, shelf life, and texture. But they do so by altering your food's chemical structure in ways that disrupt your hormonal, metabolic, and neurologic balance, often without any symptoms you notice in the short term. Eventually, you start to notice that there is a problem with your digestive system, and you develop leaky gut or some systemic inflammation. The additives in those foods erode the gut lining and allow undigested particles and bacterial toxins to enter your bloodstream, triggering inflammatory responses that affect your brain, metabolism, and your immune system. Of course, these are all very key and important. Emulsifiers disrupt gut bacteria. Polysorbate 80 and carboxymethylcellulose added to processed foods to improve texture and shelf life have been shown in research to destabilize the gut microbiome, that's the environment of the gut, damaging the protective mucus layer. So there's a layer that's supposed to protect that gut lining, but it damages the emulsifiers, these artificial emulsifiers. They actually damage that protective layer and cause those substances to leak through into your bloodstream. Sodium benzoate and oxidative stress. Used to extend shelf life in beverages and snacks, sodium benzoate increases oxidative stress and inflammation, conditions linked to type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and Alzheimer's. Long-term safety studies are not mandated by the FDA. So they already are not doing the due diligence that they need to do. And now we have there's a question of the further existence and the operations of this department that's supposed to help keep us safe. No transparency, no oversight, and no accountability. We're not just eating food. You're not just eating food, you're being fed chemicals that haven't been proven safe, with no transparency, no oversight, and no accountability. The burden of risk falls squarely on your plate. The GRAS loophole. Under the FDA's generally recognized as safe designation, food companies can introduce new additives to the food supply without notifying the FDA at all. Manufacturers self-certify safety using their own hired experts, a system that rewards secrecy and punishes nothing. Unless this loophole is closed, the cycle of unreviewed chemicals entering your food will not stop. The current system fails you. Chemicals approved decades ago remain in use despite new evidence of harm. No mandatory long-term safety testing for preservatives. FDA has not reviewed thousands of the generally recognized as safe designated additives. Big food companies are under no obligation to disclose proprietary ingredient formulas. The burden of proof falls on regulators, not manufacturers. Terrible. How to avoid dangerous additives in your food. Ultra-processed foods loaded with these additives now make up a staggering 73% of the food supply. So, of course, when you go into the supermarket, the produce, or what's supposed to be considered unprocessed real food, that's a small section of a supermarket. So that's about a fourth or 25% of the supermarket, of the food that's available. So, of course, you can see and understand that 73% of the U.S. food supply is ultra-processed foods. If you're not a vigilant shopper, there's a high chance you're routinely consuming substances that food manufacturers won't even name. These vague labels aren't accidental. They're designed to hide chemicals that were never reviewed by the FDA. So let's think about the food supply to children in particular. These chemicals have been linked to cancer-causing diseases, to cancer-causing agents, to cancer-causing processes within our bodies. There has been an uptick of cancer in younger individuals. You have pediatric cancers are growing. Some of that problem or issue is from the COVID, quote unquote, vaccine, the mRNA vaccines. But the other portion of that increase is due to these substances we're talking about right now. They're being fed cancer-causing substances every day. Number one, how to avoid additives in your food. Abandon big name brands that hide ingredients. Companies like General Mills, of course, that's a giant in the cereal industry for children. Nestle, very big, another one. And Unilever, they refuse to fully disclose what's in their products. Switch to local brands and single ingredient whole foods. If a company won't name what's inside, they have something else to hide. So the chemicals that you see on the packaging pale in comparison, of course, to the chemicals that you don't see. So again, we go back. Grow your own food. Treat ultra-processed as a red flag. Snack bars, flavored chips, frozen entrees, and shelf-stable desserts. What we mean by shelf-stable is you have a dessert that doesn't expire for 6 months, a year. So you know that there are a high level of preservatives that's keeping that dessert stable. Shelf-stable desserts are chemically engineered for addiction not nourishment. Avoid them as much as possible. If it's banned in Europe, avoid it here too, as well as Canada, I would like to add. Canada has a cleaner food supply than the US. Skip any product containing titanium dioxide, and that includes your cosmetics. Not only in food, but look at some of the cosmetics: lip gloss, lipstick, the eyeshadow, titanium dioxide. Some of the other cosmetic products for women, in particular, titanium dioxide, potassium bromate, or those other substances, BHA and BHT. What Europe's regulators found dangerous enough to ban is dangerous enough to avoid in your own home. Makes sense, right? Watch recalls and use independent resources. Rely on, and I put rely, but it's really, don't necessarily rely, but it's a guide, I should say. It's a guide that you can use. And I will share another food. It's a scanner, a food scanner that you can add to your phone. Again, guides, just, guides to help a little. I wouldn't say just totally rely on it, but you can use the Environmental Working Group, because they also produce the Dirty Dozen. They give you the fruits and vegetables that have chemicals that the pesticides, herbicides, and insecticides that are very dangerous. So this is one of the working groups that they're the lobbyists, health lobbyists that manage that and monitor those chemicals on your produce in particular. Well, they monitor other areas of food, but I know for the produce, they make sure that they keep a running current list of those fruits and vegetables that are highly laden with the insecticides, herbicides, and pesticides. So the Environmental Working Group and Real Food Communities, you can monitor those for unbiased ingredient intelligence. If you're a parent, this isn't optional. This isn't optional. If you're a parent, you really have to stay extremely vigilant to make sure that your innocent, beautiful child is not taking in these chemicals that are ruining and damaging their health. Always interrogate mystery ingredients before they reach your family's table. Your health is in your hands. Start protecting it today. You don't need the FDA's approval to stop putting yourself at risk. Your energy, your mood, your metabolism, they all depend on what you're putting in your mouth. I will repeat that sentence. Your energy, your mood, your metabolism, they all depend on what you're putting in your mouth. And now you know what to look for. Choose whole foods, single ingredient, minimally processed foods, carry no hidden additives. Shop the perimeter of your grocery store and prioritize fresh produce, quality proteins, and legumes, which are your beans. Read every label. Well, try not to read so many labels, because if you're reading a label, it's processed. So try to minimize the label reading, because then it's something that didn't grow up from the earth that you can clean off and integrate in your dining choices for you and your family. So try to minimize reading labels. If you can't pronounce it, Research it before you eat it. And that's one of the, that's also one of the aspects I'll cover shortly. Use the Environmental Working Group, which is the EWG Food Scores database, to check any additive instantly before it reaches your cart. And the EWG is integrated. Their findings, their studies are integrated in this app that I'm going to recommend to everyone at the end of the program. Demand accountability. This is where we always fall short. We always fall short with demanding accountability in our food supply. Support legislation to close the GRAS loophole. Share what you know. Consumer pressure and public awareness are the most powerful forces for reforming the food system. So, the current system is broken, but your daily choices are a vote for the food supply you deserve. Choose transparency. Choose whole food. Choose your health. Okay, so with that said, I would like to take a few questions, if I could, to kind of go over that. Oh, but before I do that, I promised you this app. Let me show you. Okay, so you see this app. Let me 10% to the organic certification. Well, I believe that's because there is a question about the validity of organic certifications. So I believe they didn't want to weigh too heavily on people relying on the organic quote unquote certification. That's my take on it. Cosmetics and skincare. It's scored by analyzing the risk level of every individual ingredient. For instance, the endocrine disruptors, those ingredients or substances that they actually affect the thyroid, and the ultra-processed foods, they severely affect the thyroid, the pancreas, and cause dysfunction. So you can have dysfunction of the thyroid that causes it to be hyperactive, which you will start to just lose a tremendous amount of weight. It will drive your pulse rate up significantly, or it can cause the thyroid to start hypofunctioning, which is you won't get a good response to your metabolism. Your body's ability to break down food and utilize those calories and have a normal metabolic rate, which will balance your weight. It actually slows down and starts to hypofunction, which is slow down the proper functioning, and you will require medication to increase the functioning of your thyroid. It can also cause allergens and carcinogens. Okay, so it's scored. It's scored by analyzing the risks of endocrine disruptors, allergens, and carcinogens. So those cosmetics and skincare that have those ingredients in them that could cause significant disruption of your endocrine organs and cause allergens and carcinogens or cancer. That's what a carcinogen is. Key features: independent ratings. Yucca is 100% independent. They make sure that they tell you that. Again, I don't rely 100% on anything besides what I have been taught in the books of How to Eat to Live and Message to the Black Man, and so those facts are 100%. But this company, they pride themselves on being 100% independent. So the information and the research that they do is supposedly unbiased. There's no brand or manufacturer to pay. It says no brand or manufacturer can pay to influence scores or advertise on the app. So, they're not accountable. They're saying they're not accountable to any brand or manufacturer. This is their claim. Healthier alternatives. If you scan a poor or bad item, the app automatically, and I found this so wonderful, the app automatically suggests similar highly rated products. Again, I like to use this for certain foods. If I'm getting something that's not produce or something natural, which isn't that often. But even if I'm supposedly getting some of the healthier brands that say that they're healthy, they're organic, thus and so, then I use this app. But I found it more helpful to me with skincare, cosmetics, that type of thing, because Again, like if you have lip gloss, or if you have lip gloss, shampoo, conditioner, the hair gel, those types of things, that's important. That's just as important as what you're eating, because when you put those cosmetics on your skin or you shampoo your hair, that can go into the bloodstream. So you want to, it can be absorbed. So you want to be careful all the way around while taking food products in, as well as putting substances on topically on your skin or in your hair. Okay. There is a transparency. It provides a detailed breakdown of exactly what ingredients are positive or negative. So the app, I would suggest that you get the app today and try it out. It's free. So just get the app today. The app is free. Try it out. And just see. You will be quite shocked. You'll be quite shocked as to the chemicals that are in some of the foods. And again, for children, that's where I was really trying to focus for my grandchildren, and looking at some of the ingredients, even for patients and their children, trying to educate, as I'm seeing patients and, educating households. This has been quite helpful. It's been quite helpful. I want to just show a comment here. My sister Patricia here, she says, Assalamu alaikum. Sister Dr. Patrice, all praises due to Allah. This is such an awful shame and abomination. You're absolutely right. We must do better to protect our children's health. We must, absolutely. Absolutely. Wow, I'm sorry, sound was lost for some time. I apologize. Oh, wow. I hope that that may have been an individual thing and not for the entire broadcast. But please, I'm going to put my email in the chat. Please just email me if you'd like to have the information that I'm presenting. I have the videos ready to go to send you. I have the slide presentation or the document that I just shared. I can email that also. So if you want to send me an email at Health at its Best, and let me show you this. Well, that's me that's following me. Let me put my email here. Oh, there I am. I think that's it. Oh, that's it. Okay, well, you have it in the chat. You have it in the chat. But I do want to also show another banner from our Closing the Gap. The last broadcast, I actually waited to the very, very end, as I'm somewhat doing now, to show the banner to please support and donate to the Closing the Gap broadcast via PayPal at JKingdom1 at AOL, or Cash App at $CTG Broadcast, or Zelle at closingthegapbroadcast@gmail. Don't you want to make sure that you continue to have all of the broadcasts that are on this network to continue giving the life-giving, life-saving information to our communities, to humanity, that we've been taught to provide to help humanity? We need to keep this broadcast going. So if you would support us so that we continue to keep the broadcast and the programs going, it would be greatly appreciated. And now I'd like to take some questions. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask, I'd like to take them now. If you have any questions whatsoever, please post your questions in the chat for me now so we can take a few. I wanted to have a few minutes. I will do a part 2 and possibly a part 3, but I know there will be a part 2 2 weeks from today, which will be the 18th. I will do a part 2, which will include other specific additives and ingredients that are harmful in children's foods, processed foods nonetheless, and adult foods. So I will have more, I should say, because I had some here, but I'll have a more comprehensive list. But I expect by that time that most of you, if not all of you, will have someone. If you can't download it yourself, please have your grandchild, your children, a friend. Please allow them to download the Yuka app and learn and see what's in your food supply, what's in the processed foods that we take in, so that you can make a healthier choice. And you don't have to search. It's already done for you. The app does it for you. It scans what you have, and then it actually does the scanning for you, does the choosing of the healthier option for you. I tried to send a couple of examples before the broadcast. I was having some technical issues, but again, I will make sure that I have that ready for the next broadcast, which will be a part 2. I actually want to follow up on some of the regulations that are in play right now, just to see if there's been any developments, any updates, especially with the future of the FDA. What is the future? I don't know if this current administration will all but scrap the FDA for whatever reason, but I shall have some updates for you on the next broadcast. I was hoping there were some questions. We have a few minutes for questions if you'd like to ask any questions at all. And what I'll do with this last few minutes, let me give, because more people have joined since I started the broadcast. So with these last few minutes, because there aren't any questions coming through for me, let's go ahead and replay the 2 very short videos, okay? Let's do that. 1 second. Okay, I will play the videos.
10,000 chemical additives in American foods. Yellow 5, yellow 6, red 40, blue 2, titanium dioxide, more titanium dioxide. All of these chemicals are banned in other countries. Both consumer groups and political leaders have expressed concerns about this.
We have a major crisis. We are losing lives.
And it's the newest Health and Human Services Secretary who can make the biggest changes in policy.
Our changing food supply, the switch to highly chemical intensive processed foods.
But if you're wondering how these ingredients made it into our food in the first place, it comes down to one thing: an FDA loophole. The FDA was created in 1906 to protect public health and to ensure the safety of foods and other consumer products.
These laws stipulate that the label must tell the truth about the product.
However, over the years, they faced criticism for poor resourcing, slow recalls, and insufficient pressure on the food industry. Today, 73% of the U.S. food supply is considered ultra-processed. Additives are commonly found in processed foods, some of which are linked to reproductive and behavioral problems, cancer, and obesity, all major issues here in the South. The European Union has about 96% less additives in their food. There have been small steps forward, like the recent ban of red dye number 3, which was linked to cancer in animals. But red 3 was banned in most European products over 30 years ago. One of the main reasons why these mystery chemicals keep showing up in our food is the FDA's GRAS policy, which stands for Generally Recognized as Safe. This was created in 1958 so that companies could waive FDA review for time-tested products like vinegar, baking soda, or spices. However, in 1997, the FDA loosened the protocol to save resources, and now companies can self-declare the safety of newer, less tested chemicals without agency oversight. So new substances have been added to our food that have never been independently tested for safety, and almost half of additives now fall under the GRAS category. The agency says that making changes is complicated.
We have an industry that if you tried to change it overnight, there are farmers all over the United States who would not be able to grow the crops they're currently growing. So there needs to be a plan, and it needs to be implemented in a mature, thoughtful way.
But the FDA has a reputation of being slow. For example, it took 8 years for calorie counts to be posted on chain restaurant menus. And while the FDA recently created a chemical safety office, Jim Jones, the head of the FDA Food Division, just stepped down due to department cuts and disagreements with the Trump administration. Jones led the agency in its ban of red dye number 3, and he's known for his chemical safety expertise. An FDA official did tell us that they'll work with the new Health and Human Services leadership to evaluate chemicals in the food supply. However, no specific plans were provided. There's still uncertainty about the agency's future, but in the meantime, it might be good to pay closer attention to the labels on your food.
Lining the shelves of American supermarkets are food products with chemicals linked to health concerns. There are at least 950 substances in our food that are not permitted in Europe, according to Eric Millstone, who has been studying food safety policy since the 1970s. Why is this? To a great extent, the FDA allows food companies to determine for themselves whether their ingredients and additives are safe. Companies don't have to tell the FDA about those decisions, and they don't have to list all ingredients on their product labels. Instead, companies can use broad terms such as artificial flavors. Though pharmaceutical companies are required to share research on humans with the FDA, the agency is largely blind to what food makers know about their products.
The food industry does massive amounts of research that we have no access to.
As a result, the FDA's oversight of food additives is much weaker than its oversight of prescription drugs. A gap in the FDA's oversight of foods goes back generations. In 1958, Congress mandated that before additives could be used in foods, manufacturers had to prove they were safe and get FDA approval. However, Congress carved out an exception for substances generally recognized as safe, which became known simply as GRAS. As conceived, GRAS promised regulatory relief for standard ingredients like salt, sugar, vinegar, and baking powder. Over time, the loophole swallowed the law. At his confirmation hearing to head the FDA, Marty Makary expressed concern about foods
with a lot of molecules that do not appear in nature.
A panel of scientists connected to an industry group called the Flavor and Extract Manufacturers Association has deemed about 3,000 flavoring ingredients as GRAS. The GRAS loophole has allowed potentially harmful ingredients to slide through the cracks. One company said in 2023 it had received self-GRAS status for an extract of this hallucinogenic mushroom, Amanita muscaria. In a memo last fall, an FDA toxicologist said extracts of the mushroom have potential for serious harm. A KFF poll found that 58% of respondents want the Trump administration to prioritize setting stricter limits on chemicals in the U.S. food supply. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. wants to close or tighten the GRAS loophole. He has railed against the risks of food additives for years and has said he wants to end
The mass poisoning of American children.
Whether changes come from the FDA or the food companies, it's clear that Americans are becoming more concerned about what they're buying.
Wow. So shocked. I know. I know. I was absolutely shocked to learn about 3,000 food additives that have slipped through as they slipped through the GRAS loophole. But there are 10,000 food additives. That was in the first video. So, wow. So just go with the larger number, 10,000 food additives. And let's just say, for sake of argument, that 3,000 have slipped through. Just think, 3,000 food additives in our food supply that the US FDA says are considered safe for human consumption? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Well, on our next broadcast on June the 18th, we will delve just a little deeper into this subject. Please come prepared with your Yucca apps. Get them on your phone. Let me show so that we can actually look up a few of the additives and chemicals that you will see. Here's, you may not can see this example that I'm putting up. It's there is, I will give you this example. There are sour flavored gummy bears of Albanese. Albanese is a very popular gummy candy factory, a company that does gummies, gummy bears. Albanese, Albanese. They have I just go through scanning things in the store. I just go through and just scan them just to see what the children are eating. And it received a 7 out of 100. 7 out of 100. It has 10 critically risky additives. 10. And of course, the sugar content, they got a red flag because of the sugar content, which is 14 grams per serving. And the serving size may be something like, maybe 5 gummy bears. But 10 risky additives, 10 that are red. So those are critical additives. So just wanted to give you an example of what the survey of those additives look like in the Yucca app. Thank you for your presence this evening on this broadcast. And I hope that you've learned something new, because in my research of this topic, which has really been on my mind for quite some time to do, I found some very new information, especially the information that there is a concern for maybe the disbanding, to disband the FDA or minimize its operations to the absolute smallest capacity of functioning, I should say. So, but if we make our kitchens, our medicine cabinets, and grow our own food, then we don't have to be as worried about or concerned about what's in the food supply, in the U.S. food supply, because we have it all together in our own homes. Thank you again for your attendance, for your viewing this broadcast. And I look forward to having all of you and recommend a friend in 2 weeks on June the 18th. Peace and blessings to you all.
This house is dedicated to knowledge and to the spreading of knowledge. Elijah Muhammad inspired new thought, new mind, new way of civilization among black people. But he wanted a house from which a light could be lifted up to give guidance to all who would be guided as this world begins to close down. This National Center for the re-education and retraining of the black man and woman, but for the totality of the human family of our planet. I named this mosque after the only woman that the Quran names a chapter after, the mother of Jesus, Maryam. All human beings need to be re-educated. That is the purpose of the National Center.